Yeah, age of 12, I just discovered that's what I wanted to do.
Well, the economy is quite hard now, and it'd be natural to try and tighten everything up. But sometimes when you do that, it can just become a wee bit too negative, and it's almost like sometimes I feel as though the wheels could fall off.
And then there was a decision that I had to make. Am I going to stay with the practice or am I going to go and do it for myself? The reality was I wasn't thinking about scaling up, and the business literally folded overnight.
Yeah. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Taylor Talks Trades. Today we are with Kenneth Martin from Block Architects, and we're going to have a good discussion around the other side of the trades today, something that might be a wee bit different. So looking forward to this one. I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome on, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, getting ready for the Christmas shutdown, so all guns blazing.
Aye, so a time of recording is literally like 4 days before Christmas or something. Right, yeah. But this will not come out to February, so people will probably be like, that, what do you mean Christmas shutdown? It's all been in HUD, so that's the joy of kind of doing it in a lag. But no, mate, how did you get into the trades then?
Well, I'm not in the trades, to his honest answer. I'm probably what you're classed as a professional architect. So there's probably historically a bit of a divide between, the trades and architecture.
Yeah.
I think historically architects were always perceived to have quite a good, or always perceived to be quite high up in the pecking order on a construction site. I think over the years that's dissipated. But maybe talk about that at some point in the future. But how I got started as an architect really was when I was younger. I was always drawing. I just loved to draw. And my mother and father would I'd sit in front of the TV, they'd be watching the TV, and I'd have a notepad, usually lined. I don't know if we could afford, plain paper at the time, but it was usually lined. I had some pens, and I used to sit and draw. My dad was a pigeon fancier, so I was always drawing pigeon huts,
Yeah.
What about this one, Dad? What about that one? There's in Belgium, the big 3-4 story things. So I was just drawing them. And believe it or not, I actually wanted to be an airline pilot. So I was always drawing runways in the back gardens with pigeon lofts. So that was my thing. But how I ended up becoming an architect, quite simply, was one of my dad's friends used to look after his racing pigeons when we went on holiday. And Robert was he was an architect.
Uh-huh.
And I remember being in his house, I said to my dad, what does an architect do? I was 12, didn't know. What does an architect do? And Robert says, I design buildings. And his was an upside down house, so he's crawling along the attic to bring out some drawings, and he brings them down. And there's this pictures of these buildings that he drew freehand when he was at university. And I remember looking at my dad and says, that's what I'm going to do.
Wow.
So at the age of 12, I decided I was going to be an architect.
So you're really passionate about the drawing and things like that, and then
loved it.
Just buildings as well, and
loved it.
Not so much.
Not so much buildings, no. It was just the whole drawing process.
It's mad how it can be such a. Do you know? Because like 9 times out of 10, people come on the podcast and I say, "How did you get into the trades?" and they'll go, "I fell into it." It's always I fell into it with this or that. But like, I've never probably had somebody go, "Oh, I was really passionate about the actual craft." So it's like that's quite interesting.
Yeah, age of 12, I just discovered that that's what I wanted to do, and everything from that age then through schooling, through speaking to parents and thinking about what courses you're going to do at high school. It was just all about how do I get into architecture.
That's interesting. That is really interesting.
So that is me. And I've got kids just now who are going through, 5th year and 6th year at school and trying to pick courses. Bearing in mind they don't know what they want to do.
Most don't.
Yeah. And it's hard for them,
Yeah.
I think looking back, I would probably say that there's more than one way. What is that hashtag?
No wrong path.
No wrong path. That's it. So, and think about that. Sometimes I look back and go, did I do the right thing? Making that decision so early, and faced with that journey again and looking at my kids, I would say, don't be in a rush to make the decision.
Yeah.
And probably their generations, they're going to go through maybe 2 or 3 different types of jobs or careers.
Try things out
in their life.
See what sticks. And do you think that you had maybe like were you quite fixated on it then? So once you decided that was it, or was that quite natural though, or were you a wee bit obsessive about it? Like, was it the reason I'm asking the question is because like I'm a wee bit OCD. So see, once I get something in my mind, it's like I've just got to make that happen, and I sometimes can block out other opportunities or other possibilities. Were you quite like that's it? And do you think you maybe done yourself out a couple of different opportunities then, and that's why you're?
I don't know. I don't know if I look back and think I've done myself out of some opportunities. I was always adamant that I wanted to be an architect. The only wobble I had was when I was in, let me think, was it third year? I finished third year at university, and you've got to do a year out. Yeah. And I was applying for posts in local architecture practices, and I couldn't get anything. And I remember saying to my mum, if this is what it's going to be like, what's the point? You know, I'll just put in my big tall guy, put in my application form for the police, and I'll just go in there. Yeah. And I remember I downloaded the forms. I had the forms sitting, ready to fill them in. And literally that day, my tutor phoned from university. He says, "Kev, I've got a job interview." I says, "All right, that's great. Where's that?" He says, "It's in London." I thought, "London? Well, I'm a wee shots boy staying in Motherwell. I don't know nothing about London, you know." He says, "Well, you go for an interview." I thought, "Right, okay." And the interview was on a Friday. And I remember it. And I left in the morning, got the train down to London. The office was in Fitzroy Square. Never been in London before. I got at the train station, didn't have a map, didn't know where I was, and just went for a wander because I thought I've got 2 hours to kill before the interview, and ended up right in Fitzroy Square. I thought that must be a sign, you know. Did the interview, thought it went okay, but that was my first interview ever. Yeah. And got the train back home to London that night, and I thought, well, that was that then. And my mum says, "How'd it go?" I says, "It was okay." And in a day or so, I got a phone call for the tutor saying, "They want to offer you the job. Do you want to go for it?" I thought, "Aye, great." So that was it.
And was it in London then?
It was in London,
Aye, so I wasn't sure if that was just the head office or something like that, but no. So were you up and away?
I was up and away. I was my cousin's best man, I think, on the Friday, and then the Saturday morning, I was on the train on the way down.
Oh. Were you not scared to just uproot like that kind of thing?
I was 21 at the time, you know. I had loads of life.
What was it? So what was the process to that point then? So you left school straight into uni to do the architecture?
Left school straight into university, I went to the Macintosh at Glasgow. Yep. Did 3 years at university, a year back in the office, and then another 2 years at university, and then I did another 2 years before I qualified. So I was 8 years in total before I qualified. Wow. But the minimum 7. You know, you need to do it.
It's quite a big process.
So yeah. I think dentists is maybe the same. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So by you knowing that's what you wanted to do, it probably made it a bit easier though, knowing that like that's where I'm ending up, because a lot of people struggle like in school because they don't know sometimes why they're learning what they're learning and what they're going on to do. But because you had that so early on, like 12, gone, I'm going to be an architect, and then going through all them steps, it's probably made it a bit easier. So you went down and basically learnt your actual craft as such in London, because that would have been the first actual job.
Yeah, I've done a few kind of weeks work experiences and practices, you know, but ultimately, that was my first experience of architecture. I was fortunate enough to work for quite a big design practice, an internationally renowned design practice. So we were working on projects like the Lowry Centre in Salford. That was on the go at the time. The British Embassy in Berlin. Big office buildings, and you know it was exciting. You know, albeit I was getting door schedules and block work schedules to do, but it was exciting just to be in the office at the time and seeing, you know, the kind of architecture for what it truly is. You know, because I think a lot of people think architecture's like what's the word, cookie cutter houses. You know, and of course we can draw them and we can do them, but that's not where I was brought up. Like that's not my initial experience of architecture was.
That makes sense. And a lot of these projects will be like award-winning stuff and all of that as well. So it'll be really exciting to be involved in like
big award-winning
famous buildings.
Yeah, and 60, 90 million pound projects back then. So
you were going to say back then when 60 to 90 million was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, Can I get a caravan for that?
The inflation. So how's it sort of, I was going to maybe go into how's it evolved, but maybe let's stick with your story now then. So when did you get to the point where you were like, I'm actually going to do this for myself?
So when I left university, I was approached by that practice to go back down and work for them in London. And a friend of mine says to me, why don't you come over? And in fact, I hadn't left university at the time. He said to me, can you come over and see us? He was an associate in a practice in Coatbridge. I says, aye, what am I coming over for? He says, just come in and see us. I thought, right, okay. So I went away over and literally had a cup of coffee and a conversation with him. And then the next day I got a phone call, we want to offer you a job. I thought, I didn't realise I was in for an interview, you know. And that was it. But what I liked about it was it was a kind of smaller practice. It was in Coatbridge. I think at the time maybe 10 staff, something like that. Doing some quite exciting smaller projects in and around the local area. And what I liked about it, and I don't know why it was intrinsic in me, but I thought, you know, I can learn a bit about business here as well as just architecture, you know. And in the bigger practices, what I learned was you would get put in to do certain aspects of a project, but not necessarily get to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
You might not be client facing, you know.
Yeah.
So what I liked about this opportunity was I'm going to be client facing. I'll get involved in the plan applications, the bill wants.
I'm sure to see it start to finish. That's quite interesting.
And be able to see different types of projects and sizes of projects and get an overall feel.
So you'd have started to get an idea of numbers and stuff at that point as well then, because you'd have been going, this is £1 million project,
that's
or this is whatever.
That's it. So I went for that job opportunity at that time, and then what I kind of realised quite quickly is that I don't think I was necessarily the best designer in the world as an architect. You know, I think there's probably stronger designers out there, but I was very capable technically.
Yeah.
Quite competent. I was good at managing clients, and I was really good at finding work.
Yeah.
You know, some architects can't do that, but I was quite good at making sure my salary and more was covered.
Yeah.
Every single.
And how did you do that? Was that like your network then, and just having the actual ability to go and speak and like to people and ask for business, or like?
It's all of that. It was quite open. If there was any opportunities to go to networking, I would go.
Yeah.
You know, the golf, I would go. Livingston Football Club was one of the projects, and I hate football. You know, I hate football, and I remember the bosses saying to me, "We were doing. I don't know if you know the office building at Livingston Football Club. So that was us years and years ago. Right. Did that, and I remember the bosses saying, "We've got a table at Livingston Football Club. Can the directors kind of go? Do you want to go?" I went, "No, I don't want to go. You know, oh, no, it's all paid for. No, I'm not going. I don't know what end of the ball for the other. I just don't like football. But anyway, so I can't even think what I was telling you that story, but we went to that. So that's kind of networking. But I don't know, I was always client facing, you know. I always had this thing where I could feel quite comfortable. I kind of walk in, I actually feel as if I have to walk into a room like for a social occasion, you know, I'd be a wee bit more reserved. You know, what are they, you know, if you put them in a room for business purposes and say, you're in there to try and network and get contacts. I'll do it.
I wonder if that's to do with the fact that like you knew for so long what you were going to be, and then you actually went and did it as well. Do you know, like it must build a lot of confidence, the fact that you had like 7-8 years under your belt, and you already before that you knew what you were going to do. So like when you're so well versed and professional at something, it probably is easy to go into a business setting, because we were talking like before we came like on live, we were talking about sort of networking, and we mentioned like BNI, and I was a member of BNI years ago, and as were you, and I remember like when I first went to BNI, although I was a self-employed roofer at this point, like I really did feel like totally out my depth, because I was seeing all these different business professionals and stuff, whereas I would maybe imagine, I might be wrong, but I think it would be a wee bit easier for you, because you're like, well, I've been to university, I've done this. It's like almost as a roofer in them environments, it's sometimes like you almost feel like, am I underqualified to be here? And you don't really know. So yeah, interesting.
That's true. I was in BNI for 12 years. So one of the things, well, actually, university was one of the things we were good at university, or they were good at training, was standing up in front of a room with your design, your drawings on a wall. Yeah. And we used to call it a crit, you know. So you had to talk to the room. So talking to the room was a skill that we learned. Yeah. We'd also have to face the criticism, you know, and sometimes it was really harsh. Yeah. You know, really, really harsh. But that does set you up for later things in life. Yeah. For example, BNI, you know, because we went to the BNI and we had trades guys coming in and saying, oh, you know, I don't want to go and talk at the front of the room. And I used to say to them, I'm going to promise you one thing, whether you get business from BNI or not, I'm going to promise you if you join the chapter, see within a year's time, you'll be able to stand at the front of the room and just talk about your business. And the transformations were phenomenal. Yeah, it really did that for me, to be honest. Yeah. Podcasts and everything now. And you just go from being, I don't know, you just build a bit of confidence. But I think from actually meeting like architects, for example, and accountants and financial advisors and business coaches and other trades, there were all sorts of people in there. So networking is massive. Anyway, we're away off on a tangent in a way, but no, we were. So I was actually asking you how you decided you were going to almost go for it alone. So you took the job in the Coatbridge place. It was smaller than that. There was about 10 people in there. You were seeing jobs start to finish. I think you started to get a good idea of the numbers and what size of projects was going around, what kind of local work was happening. Did you start getting a bug for it at that point then, and you thought, I could do this for myself? Or I think it was the realisation, having worked there for, I think it was about 3 years, that I could actually find enough work to sustain my salary and more, made me think I could probably do this for myself, you know.
Yeah.
I was still quite young as a professional, though. I'd still a lot to learn. But there was a rift in the practice at the time, and, you know, the directors and the owners parted ways. And then there was a decision that I had to make, you know, am I going to stay with the practice or am I going to go and do it for myself? And to be honest with you, before that all happened, I'm thinking, I'm going to do this for myself at some point. So that was the thing that just pushed me over the edge.
Yeah.
You know, was that...
A wee crossroads appeared in you.
That divide in the office. Apart from that as well, my fiancée is now my wife, Sandra, at the time. You know, she had a good job, making good money, and I thought, not that I was relying on that, but I thought, you know, if things go a wee bit hairy here, you know, we're kind of covered, you know. I think we were living with each other at the time, etc. So I thought, right, okay, you know, I'm going to go for it, and I went for it, you know.
It sounds like good timing, actually, when sometimes you've got that wee pretend comfort blanket, if you like, even if you don't need to use it. It's like, you know, you kind of almost stack up in your mind and go, if I got like zero work in, her wage would maybe just cover the 2 years until I got it moving or something. So,
well, I was a wee bit cleverer, not being fly, but I was a wee bit cleverer than that one. So I was open and honest with the guys who were left in the practice that I wanted to set up for myself. But what I said is, I'll do it part-time.
Yeah.
I'll work for you part-time and I'll do my own things part-time.
That makes sense.
And that supported the clients that I had with the practice and seen through the project. So there was continuity for the clients. And then I went away and started to generate my own work. So within 2 or 3 months or so, I effectively could leave, you know, without any financial risk, you know. So it kind of worked. But I probably think the one thing that was a negative about that was the whole rift made me think, I don't really want to employ people. I can't be bothered with all that stuff. I'm happy just to go and sit and work in the house and do my thing, and I'm covered, I'm fine, you know. And I probably did that for too long.
Right.
The reality was I wasn't thinking about scaling up and making a bigger business and you know. So that was probably the negative side of that. Yeah, I did go for it myself.
And we're shaped by all the things that we see that happen in our lives. So it's natural why you would think that. When did that change then? What made you think, I'm going to get staff, I'm going to hire?
I'm going to blame Sandra for this one again. So I had a staff member. So Sandra and I, when we moved from the first house we moved to a 6-bedroom house, and the attic had 2 rooms in it, and that was my office.
Right,
I said to Sandra, that's me sorted. I'll never need to leave from here. That's fine. So that was that. So of course Sandra fell pregnant, and I think it was about a week or 2 weeks before. Sorry, I had a guy working for me at the time, Ronnie. So it was me and my technician, Ronnie, and Sandra said, you know, I think it's about time you and Ronnie get an office. I says, how's that? She says, because I've got 2 weeks to go to this baby comes, she says, and I'll be running about, you know, with greeting weigh-ins and bottles and nappies and stuff, and you think you're going to be in here working with Ronnie? I went, well, that's a good point. Never thought about that, you know. So that was it. We went and got an office. We had an office before Olivia came, and it kind of worked in our favour in some respects, because at that particular moment, the work was getting busier and busier. I was thinking, I maybe need to take on somebody else here. You know, so within that first year actually of leaving the house, I think we're up at 5 staff.
Oh, wow.
So we're up at 5 staff. So I was quite chuffed about it.
Hi guys, just a quick message from our podcast sponsor, Scope Branding. We use the guys at Scope Branding for all of our branded workwear and also our podcast merch. So I would highly recommend them. Good quality, good prices, and really good service. Go and check them out on their socials just now and enjoy the rest of the show. And did that happen then by, see the office space you took, did you take one that was like maybe a wee bit bigger then, that had a couple of extra desk space that maybe just made you be able to think that way?
Well, I'm a big believer in that. Yeah, it did. Yep. So the office we moved into had 3 rooms, and there was my room. Let me think, I'm trying to remember. 1, 2, I think it was... Oh, there was 3 desks in my room.
Yeah.
And then there was 2 desks in the back room.
Right.
And then there was a wee room that was just for meetings, casual meetings and stuff. So I'm a great believer, if you create the void, you want to fill it, you know. It's the same in my office just now. There was 11 staff in the office. We moved 2 years ago from the office in Bellshill to where we are just now. And there's probably scope for 20 people in it.
Yeah.
You know, and I go in the mornings and I go look at empty desks and go...
Yeah. And that's what I've done with this place. That's why I was asking the question, because we went from our smallest of like premises that we had, it was basically like a wee container unit just for materials and stuff, and I'd built a wee office in the corner of it. Then we moved to our old premises in Bathgate, which probably ended up, we ended up having about 10 or something in the office there. It was just totally crammed though. But every time you needed to make a hire, you would just look around and go, there's nowhere to put them. And it was just like such a narrow, like it just made your your thinking narrow and small, and it always felt like everything was on top of you. Whereas when we moved to this place, there's a few empty offices. There's like, we know where the future roles are going to pop up. So we've done it in such a way that we need to come in and see the empty desk space, see the empty rooms. And I just wondered if you had that happen as well, but it looks like you did, which it's just because for anybody listening to this, it's wee things that you pick up that if you're just maybe getting to the spot where you're going to get an office, don't always hire, like if it was just for you and Ronnie, for example, a 2-space. And then if you think you need a third person, the first hurdle is going to be, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? Whereas if you've got the extra spaces, you just grow into it, and almost like you said, you just kind of make that next bit happen.
It's just making that next bit happen, and it's the understanding that you've got to be a bit brave in business as well. You know, I mean, I remember. Unfortunately, we've let a couple of guys go this year, you know, and the laptops are sitting there and their screens and stuff, and you're going, that grates in me, you know. One that grates me that we've had to let them go, you know, and it's never nice, but that is part and parcel of business and where we're in the economy at the moment in time. But actually sitting looking at phones and screens and laptops that's not being used because they're bought, that annoys me. You know, that's like, so either we need to get the sales up and we're fighting hard to do that. Or I'd probably rather just bin the laptops. But, you know, it grates on my nerves.
Sales, that's probably a better option.
But it grates on your nerves, you know.
No, it does. I'm with you.
And then looking at the other empty desks in the office, you know, that's a big driver, you know. I mean, we're working with business advisors just now. They're like, hold on, Kenny. You know, you can't just go employing people all the time. I go, no, I know, but don't like the empty desk. You know?
I think that's a good accountability as well. I've found that like the more space we've got, the more sales we need to have, the more people we need to employ. You almost look at it and it just that just keeps you moving. Whereas if you do keep things sort of, you know, the economy is quite hard now, and it'd be natural to try and tighten everything up. But sometimes when you do that, it can just become a wee bit like too negative, and it's almost like sometimes I feel as though the wheels could fall off if you be too negative. So 9 times out of 10, what we've always done is let's just grow through it. We just try and, you know, we're growing again now, and it's just like just grow through it, like just create your own economy. But you know, it's served us well so far, but you just got to, sometimes it can be a bit risky as well.
It's that, I mean, the first recession came, we had 5 staff. That was 2007, 2008. And we very quickly went back to just me and Ronnie. You know, and then I had a 5-year lease in that wee office, and we had to go back to working in the house in the attic. You know, and I just couldn't get the business to you know, I ended up, I think I had something like £50,000 worth of debt. You know, to the business by the time I moved back to the house, and business right now, you know, we've let a couple of guys go, one left of their own accord, but we're sitting looking, thinking, you know, we need to trade this business through this. Because I think the upturn's coming. And the lesson from the first time is that if you don't have the infrastructure and the staff to catch the upturn, it takes you too long to come back out of it.
I agree with you.
So we're fighting like mad just now to keep some key staff,
because there's a wave coming. And I think as entrepreneurs, like, you need to believe it's coming, because if you don't, then well, you would probably give up as well. But I do believe it's coming, and it is just about sticking to, like, doing all the things that you doing all the right things, basically, keeping the consistency there, no being too scarce, no getting too worried about it all, and then you should get that reward. You should get that kind of almost that, you know, reward for the universe to go, well, you set your stall out, that's what you said you were going to do, and then you almost get rewarded for it. Sometimes, who knows, but that feels like the right thing to do.
Feels right this time for me, definitely.
And you're going off of that last experience as well.
It's worth fighting to keep the. We've got key staff, we've got interior designers, architects, CGI specialists. You know, all of that stuff right now is making our brand particularly strong in the marketplace. And we've had that feedback over the last 2 or 3 months. And I'm thinking we're fighting to keep these.
And it takes time to build that brand and get your reputation at a point where you could attract that level of staff. So if you start letting people go and you tighten everything up, and then, like you said, that wave comes in again, you try and then start to build up again, people will go, well, I didn't really want to come back to you, or I didn't want to come to your company. You just, once things got tough there, you just let people go. It's a tightrope though, isn't it?
It's a tightrope.
It really is. It really is. So what's the sort of, is that bringing you up into today's time? Have we missed anything there? Like, is there sort of any key bits you would add in there?
No, I think in terms of business journey or experience, that's kind of been it. You know,
what's the sort of overall like architect, like what's the process as such? So when you spoke about the early days, like the London company that you went to, and you're saying you were doing like door schedules and things like that. And then obviously you went to this Coatbridge branch and you're working in there and you're seeing things start to finish. So that's a smaller company. You're seeing all the parts. Like, what is all those parts and like?
That's a big question. Actually,
is it massive? Is that going to add a neuro to the podcast?
It's maybe a full day. It's one of those ones that it depends on the project and it depends on your appointment. You know, but if you're seeing a full project through like the initiation, you know, bringing the project in. You're then maybe looking at feasibility studies to test how realistic the project can be from the point of view of, you know, cost, you know, never mind all the other legislation, can we deliver it within legislation? You're then into the planning process, actually allows the planning drawings see through planning, that can be a fight in itself. Building warrant is taking the planning drawings, still the technical information, through that into construction and production information, tender negotiations, get it on site. And then the fun bit and the hard bit is getting it built. And
actually doing the job.
That's it, and giving the client the keys, you know. So depending on what the project is and what our involvement is, that really depends on
how
the
much
whole process
moving parts are there.
That's it, and how many moving parts. I think what we have done though with the practice over the last 2 years in particular is I've tried to set it up with the management team that we're more interested in working with projects where we can get the full delivery process. You know? And I kind of liken it to the guys. That's why we've brought in interior designs and CGIs, because in the past we were doing projects and saying, right, we want block architects to do the project. We go, fine, but we want to use a different interior designer. We go, well, that's a bit like going to BMW and saying I want a BMW, but I want a Ford interior. You know, so we're trying to fill those gaps to make sure that when somebody comes and says we want a block architect's building, you get a block architect's building delivered the way we want to deliver it.
That makes sense.
So that's the kind of goal just now, is to put, and we've gone a long way, but we're not 100% there yet. But we need to put those processes in place, keep the team building towards that goal.
No, it makes sense, and then. So really that's probably just about how you showcase yourself to the market, and sort of almost you probably need to say no to some projects then and say no, we're not going to get involved in just this part of it, which you need to have bravery again to actually go no to that, yes to more of this, and then free yourself up for that.
Absolutely. I mean, over the last 18 months we've kind of been rebranding, setting a position in the marketplace. We've got our own CGI guy and the guy that does our videos and reanimation. So we're really putting the message.
What is CGI? Sorry,
computer generated images.
Right.
So essentially, if like this room we're in just now, you know, if you're thinking what's that going to look like, you know, we can model this, you know, before you even.
We did that actually, and it did help with the process a lot. Because I'm a very visual person, so like sometimes. Like if I can't see it in my mind, it would maybe even hamper me from like making the decision to do the project. So it's one thing getting drawings, isn't it? But then an actual, like the real feeling of being in it.
Yeah, well, one of our biggest projects just now is probably Garry Tower. So that's a Grade B listed building that we're going to convert and extend into a wedding venue. And we met the client and we'd done some initial sketches, and we're thinking, you're going to go ahead. She says, Kenneth, I'm committed to my project, but I just need some fire in my belly with it again, you know. It's been she says it's been a hard year from purchasing the site to where we're at just now. I thought, how do we put some fire in your belly, you know? And I thought, right, CGIs, you know. So we basically, instead of doing it two-dimensionally, we did it as a 3D animation. It's on our YouTube channel. And when you put that in front of a client and go, this is your building. You can see it like a film, 3D. And we can put the glasses on and you can walk through it if you want to.
What's the YouTube then? Is that just Block Architects?
I think it's Block Architects UK.
I'll go on and have a look.
So if you go on and look at that Garry Tower, the client just look and go, wow. Yeah. And I keep saying to clients, you know, if you're going to spend £10+ million on a project, why wouldn't you spend 5, 6, 10 grand or whatever the cost is to actually see it before you go, well, let's go?
Yeah. What about the, do you do any stuff with like VR headsets or anything like that?
Yeah.
Is that coming in as well?
Well, we've got that in the office, yeah.
Wow.
It's not something a lot of clients ask for, to be honest with you, but if we've done the computer model of it, then you can put the glasses on and you can literally walk through your building. It's quite a sickly feeling though.
Is it?
Aye, it's something I can't do it. You know, I can't do it. But some people can, but it's quite sickly.
Well, just like because
it's a bit motions. You know,
motion sickness. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I suffer from it. So you know, I was in Disney with the kids and doing that. What do you call it? What's the one with the? I can't remember. Anyway,
I don't know. I remember the Hulk one on there. That's Universal, actually.
No, that's the roller coaster. It's the 4D one I'm thinking of, and it was the
Avatar.
Oh, I couldn't. It's just no. This thing off the cliff, and when you're driving a car, you go left, and you know you're going left, you're going right. But these things, they were just, and that's a bit like the VR. You know, you don't know if you're going left or right sometimes, and I just can't do it.
That's crazy. And on the Avatar one, it sprays you with water and all that as well, so you actually you get quite immersed in it.
I think I lasted 3 seconds. I shut my eyes and went, "This wee motorbike's actually just doing that," you know. But if you open your eyes, you think the whole world's moving.
I think it was about a 5-hour queue we waited for that one as well, so I wasn't getting off it in a rush. I was like, "No, I better enjoy it." No, that's pretty good, mate. So how do you think how's the architect's role sort of changed then over the years in terms of? Do you know, you had said at the beginning there, like architects were seen on this pedestal a bit and they were really well thought of. Do you think that's, well, you did say it's diminished. So what's driving that, and where's that, like, what impact's that having?
Yeah, it's diminished over the years. I think historically architects were master builders.
Yeah.
You know, and realistically we didn't do a lot of drawing work.
Right.
We would be on site instructing tradesmen because we knew. You know, we knew roofing, we knew plaster, we knew masonry, we knew, you know.
And this because you had all the theory behind it as well. So,
well, then we had the theory, you know, and then
was it quite practical back then as well? So it'd be you had the theory, but you're actually put that there, do this, screw that in, whatever.
I mean, my tutors have got stories of going out, building towers and going to site and saying, no, keep going, it's not tall enough yet.
Oh, right.
You know, as opposed to us nowadays, we have to draw and say that's the height. You know, they would go on site and say to the brickie, "Now I put a couple of courses on it. I'll see it again tomorrow. See if I'm happy with it." And that was how things was done back then. You know, and they commanded a degree of respect because they knew enough about all trades. They were essentially master builders.
Yeah.
So go through centuries, things have changed. You know, and I never ever experienced that, but certainly for us as architects, the industry, potentially because architects never positioned themselves correctly in the marketplace, we lost the cost control, you know, because QSs were involved. We lost the project management side because project managers come on board. And then all of a sudden, you know, the architect is seen as somebody who just does a set of drawings, you know. I think, unfortunately, Grenfell is the thing that's going to turn that, you know, because as soon as something goes wrong, everybody's looking at the architect.
Yeah.
You know? And I know other professions were looked at, but all of a sudden they look at the architect because that's the professional. And I think architectural professions and body, well, wait a minute here, you know, if the spotlight's back on us, things needs to change. You know? So in terms of policy and procedures, we're seeing a lot of like building control departments, plan departments looking towards the architect again to resolve things and to do things and to adopt to different roles. In England in particular, you know, health and safety is back in the architect's camp at the design stage, whereas traditionally we might go and get a consultant to do that.
Yeah.
So there's things changing on the back of that. But it also means that when you get to site, you know, the trades guys, you know, because I mean, I don't want to talk ill trades guys because we work with them all day long, but I'd go on site, you know, with a set of drawings and what have you, and you would get, "Oh, I've been doing it for 20 years, son. You don't want to do it like that. This is how you do it." You know, I go, "No, wait a minute. You know, we've just went through 2 years of fighting through planning and building control to get approvals on this stuff. And this is how the regulations have changed."
Yeah,
you know?
That's what I was going to say. Things change as well.
Things change, yeah. And I think any tradesperson or even, you know, medium to big size contractors who embrace the fact that these policies, procedures are changing constantly, and then training their team to make sure they're up to speed with that.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's going to make trades and construction contractors successful over the next 4 or 5 years. We've got the whole sustainability thing kicking in as well. You know, so that's sustainability. We're looking at a passive house. I think they've announced is something like going to be mandatory for new built houses by 2028.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's not a long way away.
It's not a long way away. And I'm speaking to contractors on the sites trying to say that this is coming, you know, and it means that you and your team will need to think carefully and differently about how you put things together to make them more airtight, you know, or to think about the environmental response, generally speaking, and how all that information is recorded on site, you know, because the big thing is going to be somebody's going to have to be responsible for saying your passive house, which has been designed to passive house standards, has been built to passive house standards. It might be the architect, probably be the architect. It might be building control to some extent, you know, or it might be an independent passive house certifier. But somebody's going to have to put their neck on the line and say, "You've met this requirement," you know. And it's going to be back to the architect needs to become the person on site again who's respected and who what's the word I'm trying to say? Who the trades guys say, right, you know what you're talking about. I need to make that work.
Yeah, actually listening. Yep.
And I think, I've seen it over the years where a lot of trades guys they do just do that whole thing of, well, you know, I'm a trained plumber. And we used to rely on plumbers and electricians because I'm not an electrician. I couldn't sign off a house to say it's wired electrically, it's safe, etc. But there is going to have to be that wee shift, I think, coming over the next 2 or 3 years, and more education for your teams, you know.
Yeah, and it does make sense because, like, nobody does enough training. Like, nobody, we're guilty of that as well, like with CPD and stuff like that. It's like you try, but you're always under pressure with timelines, you're always under pressure with, like, targets and everything else. So it's like the training, more often than not, gets thrown to the bottom of the pile, but it just can't be the case. No. We try our best to keep up to speed with anything that's changing, and obviously we're just dealing with one element because it's just roofing. But even with that, you know, like, things just change, and I've heard all of that as well with, like, roofers saying, "Oh, well, I've done that for 25 years," and it's like, well, if you look at, like, the British standards, like, some have changed multiple times during that 25 years, so and they've just never ever looked at it. So it's important for companies really to kind of take that upon themselves, to train themselves and then train their staff and everybody involved. But no, it's interesting. I think the documenting process is going to be important as well, and that's maybe where, like, technology possibly could help in terms of, like, I know we use, like, a job management software. So say, for example, for the passive house stuff, you could probably be, you know, taking photos as you go and logging it, so it's actually like a documented process to say, look, there's that window, it's all sealed airtight around there, blah blah blah. But it's just a never-ending battle. Because you'll probably have seen this, but, like, what's actually been put there by the architect and what gets delivered can sometimes be two different things as well. So it's I can see why you would want to be involved in that throughout as well. Like you were saying, it got chopped up a bit, and it's maybe project managers, and then you've got other people involved. It's sometimes just having one person who's solely responsible might actually.
Yeah, I think it could benefit the project in some respects, but I do think it's this whole passive house sustainability agenda that we've got, and it's just coming. You know, it's coming like a choo-choo train. We can't stop it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree that, you know, the UK, you know, I think we contribute something like 1 or 1.5% to the world's emissions. So I'm not that necessarily sure that we're going to have a big impact, global impact by doing these things. But I think it's a good thing to do. You know, I've got 2 young kids, and hopefully they'll have kids and grandkids and stuff. You think you want to leave this planet in a half decent shape, you know. So why not start in the UK and get it done, you know? But for my industry, it certainly will mean looking hard at how we do things in the office to make sure we're complying with those things, and then trying to educate clients. You know, we've got clients just now that you think they don't want to hear it. You know, and you do say, well, you've got 3 years to get some knowledge, and I'm not getting any time for this. You know, well, it's just going to hit them like a brick wall. You know, a
lot of it is cost, though, isn't it? And it's like, you know, like the amount of times I've heard just like proper like trades guys on site, that's the actual on the tools guys. Just being like, oh, that, like, the architect's just done that to, like, show off or whatever, like what they put that on this for, and do you know, it's like that's just going to cost a fortune, and it's like, or they maybe like you know, we're maybe like, as we've grown our reputation, and if we were like, we didn't do a lot to drawings, if I'm honest. Like a lot of our stuff's retrofit. It's like, do you know, it's private homeowner work. It's usually stripping retiles and stripping reslates and whatnot. But a lot of the time, if there is a drawing, you know, we're like, right, we'll price that to the specification that's there, and then like the next roofer's just like, no, you didn't need all that. Like you didn't need a VCL. You don't need that. Like didn't bother with that, and that can be really damaging to the project. But
it is damaging to the project, and I think architects can sometimes have that reputation of you've not over designing it, but why do you need to design it like that? You know? But what I keep saying, and usually we find this stuff out when we hit site, you know. So we turn up on site, and then the contractor sits down and says, right, I can do that this way and do that. I say, well, wait a minute, you've priced to deliver that.
Yeah.
I know we can do it that way, but that's a cheaper looking construction, you know. And then
so they're pricing for this, but then try to, not what to say cut a corner, but find an efficiency to just.
Well, they're happy to cut their costs.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we've won the job. That's, you know, but then it's that if we do it this way, it's cheaper. We can save the client some money. Well, okay, we can take that to the client. I get that, but actually, we're trying to deliver. We're not trying to deliver a 40, we're trying to deliver a BMW. That's what you signed up to deliver. You know, so there's those debates and arguments as well. They're interesting, you know. We deal with it day in, day out, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's good fun. And what's the future hold for you guys then? Just sort of you really want to sort of keep things as they are now, so you can hit this next wave, like if the economy hopefully goes up and.
Well, for us, that's the case. So we're trying to build the team up again. So right now we're concentrating a lot on, you know, keeping going what we've got going, building a wee bit more profit margin, and training the team at management and leadership levels. And as we grow that and bring that through, we'll bring in other architects and juniors underneath them. And I'm really looking to get the business back up to about 12, 15 people over the next 2 or 3 years. I do have a kind of retirement plan. I'm 50 next year, and my wife, I probably would say she's semi-retired already, you know. So she's ready to go and live in Spain, and I'm not quite there yet. So really for me, I would say the next couple of years is about being able to not desert the business, but to make sure it's in a position whereby if I decide that I'm going to go to Spain for a month or whatever, that it's a matter of checking emails, but I know that the business is being run. You know,
and I think that's what business is. Like, I think business should be like, once you've put all the hard work in at the start, like there has to be an end in sight. There has to be, like, effectively a business should run without you is probably the end goal. I think there's a lot of guilt for business owners with that though. Like, you feel like you somehow shouldn't be able to, you know, go on holiday and no have to check in and have to do everything. And maybe sometimes just a significance thing where we need to like let that control go as well a wee bit. But there's nothing more exciting than building a good team that you can see are like delighting your customers and you're not involved. I think that's brilliant. That shows that you're really training them properly. You're really building a good culture. I think that's harder than actually probably just doing it all yourself.
Well, absolutely, and you've done it and we're doing it. And the thing for me though is well, I would say as much as I love doing it, I love enjoying it, and as much as I say I'd love to go Spain or whatever for a month, I know after 2 weeks I'm like, oh, what's going on? You know, because I'm not somebody that can sit. I need to be involved. You know, so when I'm thinking about retirement, I'm thinking, could I ever retire? I don't know, probably will, but I just don't wake up thinking I want to retire. You know, I want to keep going.
It's good whilst you've got that hunger and that drive and determination to get it fixed, so that if for any reason you right, I need to retire, or it's, you know, whatever happens, it's then there. It's a choice rather than a lot of people. Like I was speaking to a business owner and about their longer term plans, and he was just basically saying, once I get to there, I'll just sell all my stuff and that'll be it. And I'm like, it's not really that much. There's not much value to that. Do you know, you get to the end of a business, you've maybe had 20, 30, 40 years, whatever. Like you want to basically be able to sell it and cash in on that, your full life's work.
Well, that's the mission that I've set the guys. The guys know that is our mission. And I reflect back to one of the first kind of business mentors I had who was an architect. He passed away there sadly, and his business really never grew. It kind of grew and contracted over the years, but when he passed away with cancer, I think there was 3 employees in the business at the time. And the business literally folded overnight. And I thought, I don't want that to be my, no offence to him, I don't want that to be my legacy. I'm trying to grow the business that it looks after me in retirement, or it's sold, or the management buy it, whatever happens. But ultimately, I want something that's got legs, that when I'm not there, it's still going, and the team's grown it. You know, otherwise, what's the last 20 years been for? You know, for a wage?
Nah, definitely. I read a book, you might have read it, but Built to Sell.
I've not read that one.
And it's quite good, but it basically, it teaches in the book, like, build your business to sell it, even if you've not got any intention of selling it.
Yeah.
And it's really about choices. It's like, build it so it's the systems are there, the processes are there, the culture's right, you know, right people on the bus, get them on the right seats, the whole shooting match really. And then it's like, if you want to just go in and be in there every day, then go in. But if you didn't want to and you were like, there's just a choice. It's an exit plan. And a lot of time what they say is you probably never want to sell it if you build it that good. Yeah. So that's the challenge. Yeah. Well, that was great, mate. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. And wish you all the best in the future. If anybody's want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you or Block Architects? Probably check our webpage, or ideally look at us in LinkedIn. LinkedIn, yeah. I see you're quite active on there and good stuff, and the branding and that's looking good. So no, that's great. Perfect, mate. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. Thank you. Well, guys, that's another episode done. I hope you enjoyed that one. Seen something a wee bit different from, not quite the trades on the tools stuff, but from the other side. So, yep, I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thank you.